Hello and welcome to Knitwhim's podcast. I am Lindsay, also known as Knitwhim on Ravelry, and you can check out my written blog at arcaneknits.blogspot.com. I have a lot to cover today, so I'm just going to go right into it. The format today is going to be Shop Hop Atlanta, Nerd Wars, Works in Progress. I do just want to say from the beginning, I'm sorry if I don't sound as super enthusiastic as I should. I just started working a night shift this week, and as you can tell, it's daylight. I think you can tell it's daylight, and I'm awake, and I should not be awake right now. I should be sleeping because I have to work from like 9 p.m. until 7 a.m. But I'm awake anyway because they're building a house across the street, and people's dogs are barking, and there's a kid screaming, and I just can't sleep. I can't do it, and it's a beautiful sunny day out. So anyway, Shop Hop Atlanta. Oh my gosh, it was super fun. It was super fun. So if you're new, first of all, welcome to the show. I hope you like it. And returning viewers, thank you so much for hanging in there. Yeah. So basically, Shop Hop Atlanta there are 9 yarn stores in Atlanta, Georgia, and they were doing a little thing. They had a passport that you could buy at any of the stores, and what you had to do was you had to get it stamped at all 9 of the stores that were participating. And if you got, for every store that you got it stamped, that store would draw your name, put your name into a drawing of prizes. Each of the stores had 3 prizes up for grabs. So that's pretty cool. And then if you hit all 9 of them, then you would be entered into the grand prize, which is $900 in gift certificates to the stores, $100 per store. So, sorry, what's wrong with me today? So that's really cool. Obviously, we're in it for the money, right? We just want the grand prize. But we also enjoy spending money on yarn anyways. There was a minimum $10 purchase per store to get your card stamped. So those of you who are good at math, not me, but those of you who like adding, that adds up pretty quick, especially if you know how yarn stores work. $10 is actually the lower end of the price range for a luxury yarn store. So minimum is actually hard to hit just $10 per store, because a single skein is usually $12 or more, and the really nice stuff is like $20. So yeah, we did that, and it was kind of crazy. We almost didn't hit all 9 stores. We didn't leave until 9:30 in the morning because there was military mandatory things that had to happen in the morning before we left that sort of delayed our start. And it's a 2.5-hour drive from where we live, because obviously I went with Amanda because, hello. Craziness seems less crazy when you do it together with somebody else, right? It took 2.5 hours to get there. We got to the first yarn store at 11:30, and my biggest pet peeve about yarn stores in general is that they usually have weird hours. So they're like open from 10. The first yarn store was open from 10 until 4 p.m. A lot of the yarn stores close between the hours of 5 to 6 p.m. And all of the yarn stores were like 20 or 30 minutes apart from each other. So we actually legit had to call a yarn store and be like, yo, it's 6:05. It's like 6 o'clock right now, and we kind of are on our way to your store. Can you maybe possibly stay open a little bit so that us crazy chicks can come spend money? They said yes. Luke, may the force be with you. You had to have seen that coming, right? Luke was the one who was like, sure, I'll stay open a little late. Doesn't matter to me. Sure, why not? So by that point, we were like, grab something and go. Just pick something, anything. And fortunately, that store, Rare Pearls Knitting Boutique, was one of the 3 stores that carried fiber. Of the 9 stores, only 3 of them had any resemblance of a fiber collection at all. And so from that store, I'm not going to show you everything I got because a lady never talks about her stash and how big it is. I saw a really awesome meme the other day that said that, and it had a picture of Professor McGonagall. Cracked me up. Anyway, I'm not going to show you my whole stash, but I got this at Rare Pearls. They are awesome. Stayed open late for us so that we could get. They were stamped number 8, and we had one more after them to do. So this is really pretty. The color's pretty. It's pretty much what the colors are. It's grayish purpley red, purple red gray, and gray blues. And there's a lot of white like splotches. And this is 100% merino. This is, the colorway is Dusk and Blue, which makes sense. And it's by Heidi Barrett Designs, and she's on Etsy as Einstein's Logic. Don't know what that has to do with fiber, but that's her Etsy store. And it's Olive Ewe Fibers. Kind of cool. So this is, and I'm not good at conversions. It says it's 112 grams. I didn't know how to convert weights until I started spinning. I think that's about 3.9 ounces ish. It's almost 4 ounces. It's something really close to 4 ounces. So that was cool. That was like the really like rushed recap of Shop Hop Atlanta. It was pretty intense. We started kind of slowly, like looking around at all the stores, and then we were like, oh snap, 3 stores are closing in an hour, and how are we gonna get to them all? And you know, it was 2:00, and we hadn't had lunch yet, and we had to pee. Actually, I was surprised by the number of yarn stores that had bathrooms, but we never thought to use them when we were there. And then we're like, oh no, we need a bathroom. So we stopped at Starbucks and had lunch at Starbucks. We had all these like extravagant plans about like, we're in Atlanta, you know, big city, let's go eat somewhere nice. Because in Augusta, like the nicest thing that we have is like an Applebee's and a Mellow Mushroom. And those are nice places, but that's like as good as it gets. But we did not have time to go to a nice restaurant. We barely had time to hit all 9 stores. We, at some point, had a system where it was literally, you have 10 minutes, go into the store, grab something, and run to the cash register. Just as soon as, like, scram. So it was pretty cool. Most of the people that we met were really, really friendly. Pretty much all of the yarn stores had a Swift and ball winder set up, and they offered to wind your yarn for you, because if you are one of those people who don't often go to yarn stores and you buy most of your yarn from Michael's or some other big craft store like that, they come already wound. Most yarn from yarn stores comes like this, and I mean, you can wind that by hand, but it's so much faster to wind it with a Swift and ball winder. We did not have time even for that convenience, and some of the shop owners were really surprised that we didn't want. They're like, you want us to wind this for you, right? As they're walking towards the Swift and ball winder, and we're like, no, we don't have time. We're seriously doing all 9 of the stores today. And they were all like, oh, all in one day? I don't think you can do that. You know, you might be able to do it. Good luck. You know, it was scary. No, you know, it was scary, but they were nice. So much yummy, delicious stuff. And the Malabrigo, I am kind of surprised I didn't come home with Malabrigo lace weight, because that's my all-time favorite. Like, single ply, squishy, soft. I actually knit myself a gray lace scarf thingy out of Malabrigo lace. It was my absolute 100% favorite thing ever. I wore it everywhere. I kept it in my purse. I can't find it. I don't know where it is. I'm sure I left it at a restaurant somewhere, and it makes me very sad. I'm surprised I didn't get any. I did get Malabrigo Rio. Is it Rio or Rios? I would know, except it's the one skein of yarn that I accidentally left in Amanda's car. Because, maybe I'll put a picture in, we were throwing everything in the trunk, and after each yarn store we would take a picture. So we had like this steady progression of empty and then fuller and fuller and fuller. So when we finally did get back to my house at like 11:30 at night, I think I did a really good job of like wrangling all my stuff out of her trunk and blurrily stumbling into the house. But I did leave that one skein with her, and I think it's actually my favorite of what I got, because I love Malabrigo, and their normal worsted weight is single ply, which is nice, and lots of people make sweaters out of it, which I don't get. Like, single plies are super soft, but they pill really easily. And I just read an article somewhere about how to prevent pilling, and about how a lot of times if something pills, it could be knitter error and not the yarn's fault. Especially looser plied or unplied singles yarns need to be knit at a tighter gauge, and they actually won't pill as much or at all if they're knit tight enough. And so the article was all about, if your yarn is pilling, you probably aren't knitting it at a tight enough gauge, and you should drop down. Like, that's great. But still, a sweater out of single ply Malabrigo, that's like knitting a sweater out of cashmere clouds. They're not going to stay formed. It's going to come apart. So Rios, that yarn is applied worsted weight, and I'm super excited about it. I'm probably going to knit hat. It's amazing, amazing, gorgeous, to die for, teal, blues, and greens, and amazing yumminess. I'm excited. There was a very interesting range of yarn stores. Like, the first one that we went to was smaller, but it had like a big Southern kitchen style table that a bunch of ladies were sitting at and knitting. Hello, it's the best thing ever to see people actually in a store knitting. They were super friendly and outgoing. There were some stores that like there's just nothing but really expensive art yarn. Like, yarn at yarn stores is expensive, but like $30 yarn with like beads and beach glass all already in it and stuff. Like, that's nice and everything, but that was almost exclusively what that store had in stock. That and cotton. I've never seen so much cotton in a yarn store ever. Like, Hempathy, which I'd only ever heard of, I'd never seen it in person, and Cotton and all this other cotton or hemp or linen yarns. It's my first time in a yarn store in Georgia, and I get it. It's like 90 degrees here all the time. So of course they wouldn't want so much wool, and I mean, it makes sense. But I'm not a huge fan of linen. I guess I just haven't found the right project for it yet. Cotton, I like making garments, and cotton, worsted weight cotton is like very impractical to make garments out of. I'm sure if you had lace weight cotton, you could knit yourself a top that actually felt like a wearable object. But to me, a worsted weight cotton t-shirt is still going to be icky and heavy and hotter than if I just made something out of fingering weight and wool, or a wool silk blend or something. So there's so much cotton and linen in all these stores. What else? Oh, there was one store that was so small. Like, the lady, I don't know if she owned the shop or she was just working there, but she was sitting at the table knitting, and she seemed like annoyed that we were coming into the store. and just very put offish and annoyed, and she kept rolling her eyes at it. It was their selection was very small. They had almost nothing, and they had a lot of hand dyed, locally made by artist, expensive yarn. I don't mind spending $30 for quality hand painted yarn. I get it, they want to make money and be all artistic-y. But that was like almost exclusively what they had. Some other stuff, and they were one of the stores with fiber. It was very weird because they had spinning wheel in their window dressing, and then they had a ladybug like in the back, like put away, like it wasn't being used. And they had a small stand with like some BFL. I thought it was all BFL, and BFL has a wide range of softness, and it wasn't the most soft BFL I'd ever touched. So I wasn't impressed. I didn't really stay to look. Amanda spent more time picking through the fiber, and she actually found some targy, which it's on my list of things I want to spin. Oh my gosh. So she snagged that. But it was weird. Cast On Cottage was the biggest store that we went to. It was huge, and it was... Jean went to Fiberspace with me, which is a yarn store in DC. Cast On Cottage was sort of like that. It was big. It had the aisles of yarn, but it also had like an open space for people to hang out, and it had the huge wall of Cascade and all of the colors, and everything was organized by brand, and they had like all of the different things. So like for Malabrigo, they had Malabrigo worsted and Malabrigo lace weight, and like they didn't have Rios, but that's pretty new-ish. I don't know when it came out. I feel like it's kind of new. They didn't have that, but she had all of the other Malabrigo weights there, and like lots of colors. A lot of the other stores had 4 or 5 colors, and that was it, of whatever they were carrying. So Cast On Cottage had so much. It was intense. That was one of the stores where we were like, we don't have time to look anymore. 10 minutes and get out, which was kind of sad and disappointing because there was so much to look at, and I don't think we saw 10% of what they had in stock there because it was literally 10 minutes. I did have 2 complaints though. The first was I had a shopping list of stuff that I wanted to get. And one of the things was I wanted to get yarn for the Oh Dear mittens by Natalie Sells, I think was her name. And it's really cute colorwork mittens in sport weight yarn. And I had written on my notes, Barocco Ultra Alpaca. So I went and found the Ultra Alpaca, and one of the things that I forget about real yarn stores is that they don't write the weight of the yarn on any of their labeling. And you know, like, I don't have acrylic candy. Yes, I do. You know, regular acrylic stuff, it'll have, at the very least, it'll have the number. It'll say 4 for worsted weight. And sometimes it'll actually say worsted weight somewhere on here. I'm not seeing it on this one. But it'll say worsted, or it'll have the 4. And the standard for all of the yarn sold at yarn stores is to only have the stitches to an inch needle size stuff. And so you have to know how many stitches to 1 inch is worsted weight, because that's all that's on there. And that is the dumbest way to keep track of, in my humble, completely and totally correct opinion, the dumbest way to keep track of what weight a yarn is, because I don't knit the same stitches to an inch that any of the ball bands say, and my stitches to an inch change dramatically with the same yarn depending on what type of needles I'm using. Like if I use a size 7 straight, I'm going to get a different gauge than if I use a size 7 DPN, and if I'm knitting circularly magical loop, my gauge is going to be even different with the same size needle and the same yarn. So that's the most retarded. So anyway, I was really flustered. I had 10 minutes to go, and also they don't have a huge selection of colors in sport weight. I want solid colors in sport weight to do color work with. It's really hard to find. So I did get, these are the colors I ended up getting. It's the cream for the background, and then the Oh Dear mitts it's got like a little antler design on the palm of the hand, which will be in red. And I kind of wanted the red to be a little bit darker and the cream to be like a fawn brown color, but this was the closest I could get. And I was like, I'm pretty sure this is sport weight. I wrote it down on my paper, so that's probably right. But I went to the counter and I was like, hey, just a quick question. This is sport weight, right? And the lady gave me this look like I was the most retarded ignoramus ever and was like, no, it's worsted weight. Like, I'm pretty sure this is sport weight. She's like, no, it's worsted weight. Don't you know how to read stitches to the inch? So I was like, okay, I have a backup plan. That's not it. There was this, and there's a red. Here it is. This classic elite fresco is fingering weight. That's kind of like sport weight, right? It's fingering weight is closer to sport weight than worsted weight. This is the pressure talking. This is the time crunch. I'm not usually this stupid. So I bought this instead because she told me that the ultra alpaca was worsted weight, and I believed her. And for some reason, I thought the fingering weight would be better. I don't know what I was thinking. And then, of course, once we were in the car driving again and I calmed down, I got my phone out and I got in Ravelry and I looked up the pattern. The pattern was written for ultra alpaca. Ugh! I knew this is what I was supposed to get for the pattern, and I let that lady who did not know what she was talking about and was rude tell me this wasn't what I wanted. So of course I bought it at the next store. Because why not? It's what the pattern calls for. And I'm not going to be able to get gauge with this, probably. But I feel kind of bad that I got basically 2 yarns and basically the same colors. Actually, I like these colors better, which probably contributed to my crazy, horribly bad decision, because these are the colors I wished I could get in the Broco Ultra Alpaca. It's just, like, the reds are mostly the same, but, like, I like the dollar berry color, and I like that it's this brown. Oh well. So yeah, so that was annoying. She told me something wrong. I didn't have confidence in myself. I know what I'm talking about. I know that this is sport weight and that the pattern called for this, and I couldn't pull out my phone in the store because I was rushed and feeling harassed. I was really annoyed. Also, I've been getting some knitting pain because of the amount of knitting I'm doing for Nerd Wars, and also I'm also getting a spinning pain that's specifically for spinning. Like, I can tell which part of my hand hurts from spinning versus which part of my hand hurts for knitting. And I was reading in the chat threads, somewhere on the Nerd Wars chat threads, good luck finding it, that there are these knitting needles that are kind of popular now called cubics, and they're square, and they're supposed to be better ergonomically, and they're supposed to help reduce the stress of knitting. I don't know if that's true. Do you know? Have you tried them? Is it true? I find it hard to believe that something that different, that slight, like a square versus a circle, could be so significant. But on the other hand, it could. It could. So I kind of wanted maybe to get a pair and try them out. And I was scouting out the needle selection in all the stores, and I hadn't seen any. And, like, at a low-end yarn store where they don't carry expensive stuff, I would understand if they didn't have knitting needles that were like $20 a pop, because I think they're like $12 each or something. I don't remember, but I would understand. But these stores had like sock yarn that was $35. So if they don't have any problem selling sock yarn for $35, they sure as hell can sell. And they sold the Addy needles, and they're like $11 each, depending on the size. Some of them are more. So I offhandedly made this comment, checking, like, I had handed the credit card over and was, like, was making my purchase. And I made this comment, like, I was actually hoping to see those new Cubics needles that are so trendy and find out what's up about them. I'm surprised none of the stores, we've been to, like, 5 stores at that point, none, or 6, I don't remember, none of them we had gone to had them so far. And the lady was like, oh, we have those. I was like, really? She's like, yeah. She turns around, there's like a cabinet behind the counter. She opens the cabinet, pulls out like a shoebox type thing. It's fancier than a shoebox, but basically pulls out a box, takes off the lid, and she's like, here are our Cubex needles. What? what? How am I supposed to know that I have to ask you to see, like, they're not that expensive and high-end that you need to hide them. Like, only the elite people who are in the know enough to ask you to see your cubics needles can get them. And I was like, oh, well, I've already paid for my yarn, and I'm not going to buy those in addition to my yarn, and I've already annoyed at her for other reasons. And she's like, yeah, well, if you want to get them next time you come, make sure you call in advance to make sure we have the size you need, because they sell out fast. I'm like, I'm buying these online, not from you. I'm really annoyed. I'm really annoyed. There was one other store that had a huge sign saying, our Addy Turbo needles are now under glass. Please ask if you need help. I'm like, do you have problems with knitters walking off with your expensive circular needles? Is that a thing? It's probably a thing. They probably have expensive needle shoplifters. That's probably what it is. But I was a little annoyed. Because now I wonder how many of those other stores that I was looking carefully at all of their needle selection, how many of those other stores also had cubics needles in a drawer somewhere where customers couldn't see them without asking specifically for them. And that's not great. That's not great business, is it? I don't know. I'm mad. So we barely made it to Rare Pearl's knitting boutique. They closed at 6. I called them at like 5:50 something, like, hey, can you stay open? He's like, yeah, I can stay open 15 minutes. And then at like 6:05, like, because we were hitting every single red light, and it wasn't like on a freeway or something. It was like neighborhood, like back streets with lots of lights. So every light we hit, the GPS would like ratchet up our estimated time of arrival. So it was like estimated time of arrival 6:05, and then we'd hit a light, and it would be like estimate time of arrival 6:10, and then we'd hit another it was horrible. So I called them again. I was like, hey, I know you said you'd stay open, but we're stuck at we were like 5 miles away from the store, and the GPS said it was going to take us 15 minutes to get there. And he was like, yeah, that's cool, I'll stay. I don't care. He was so cool. He was so cool. And then I think he walked home from the store, which that's really a sweet setup if you can walk to a yarn store and work there. I'm a little jealous. But then we only had one store left, and that was the whole 9 yards. And we saved them for last because they were open until 8 p.m. More yarn stores need to be open until 8 p.m., people. It makes yarn hops way easier if you're open until 8 p.m. They were super cool. They had this huge like storefront that was glass, so you could like look in, and they had this neon light on the outside that said open, and it had these knitting needles on it. It was really cool. You go in, and they had like couches set up so you could like sit and talk. There were 2 ladies there with their spinning wheels. They were so awesome. We talked for a long time with them. They were just super cool. And one of the ladies insisted on giving us money for coffee when she found out that we were driving back to Augusta, a 2.5-hour drive from the store. And it was like she found out we were in the military, and like it was this whole thing. They were cool. We talked about Ply Magazine. That was cool. Apparently, Stacey Boggs was there in the store. What? They need to advertise that stuff. It's like, you need to call me next time she's coming so I can be there and like mob her. Like, so yeah, so that was cool. They had fiber. They had fiber from Lorna's Laces, which I kind of knew they did fiber, but they do sock yarn. That's what they're known for. And so they had that fiber, and then they had fiber from Gail's Art, and she is one of the many, many, many talented dyers on Etsy, and I had only just recently learned that she was like a huge, big deal name, because I just joined another spinning group. I'm like a member of a gazillion spinning groups now, called Completely Arbitrary and Twisted, maybe? Don't quote me on that. But they do like spin-alongs, and each spin-along they have a highlighted dyer, and they have her do a custom colorway, a fiber, and then everyone spins it, and they post pictures, and it's kind of cool because you get to see how the same dye job on the same fiber looks differently depending on how you spin it, and it's really cool. And then this month's, I think it's 3 months long, from October until December, I think. This month's dyer was Gail's art, and I had just heard about her through them, and I just heard about how awesome she was. And then I was in the store touching her stuff, and I think it was the Polworth that I touched. It was the softest, most amazing, like, this is merino, and this is soft. This is like, I can't wait to spin this because this feels awesome. The Polworth was better. The Polworth was like this soft, but like smooth, like silk and glistening, and it was just amazing, 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 amazing. But I'm going to do that spin along, and I'm going to buy, I have actually, since then, I have purchased the specially dyed yarn for the spin along that she did off Etsy. I knew then that I was going to do that, and I was like, I don't need 2 Gail's Art braids. Actually, thinking back on it, yes, I do need 2 Gail's Art braids. But the other thing is that her braids, they're not like this, but they're like this in that it's a hand-painted braid with a lot of different colors going on, which is fine. But I'm still super scared of barber pulled yarn, and so I went with spinning a variety of different stuff and not having that crazy color to worry about. And I got the learner's laces when it's a lot more like huge bulges of solid colors, and so it's still multicolored, but it's not going to be like barber pole confetti in your face. This is more my thing. And this is also merino, but I'm getting Gail's Art braid. I ordered it. I don't know when it's coming because she is so popular and so many people ordered her stuff, and I only ordered 4 ounces of the Polworth, and a lot of people were ordering like 3 or 4 things. It's like, I don't have the money for that. I had a very strict Shop Hop budget, and I mostly stuck to it, but I also kind of didn't. Especially because with Nerd Wars happening. Okay, this is getting really long, I'm sorry, but I still have to talk about Nerd Wars. I had this amazing plan of doing my dissertation project for Nerd Wars in cotton that I was going to buy on the Shop Hop. And then, 2 days before the Shop Hop, I was like, wait a second, that's dumb. Cotton in luxury yarn stores is like $7 a skein for a 180-yard skein. That's not going to work out for the blanket I want to do. That's going to be expensive. And so after the Shop Hop we went on the 30th, and Nerd Wars started on the 1st. So on the 1st, on the day of Nerd Wars, I went to Hobby Lobby and bought Hobby Lobby I Love This Cotton, which was still a lot of money for a blanket's worth of yarn, but significantly less than if I had bought it on the Shop Hop. So that wasn't in my budget. But whatever. I've been wanting to do this for a while. And I'm going to have to talk about all of my Nerd Wars stuff next time. Basically, Nerd Wars has started. If you don't know what it is, it's a 3-month knitting competition. It's a Groupon Ravelry. Search Nerd Wars. You join teams, and you earn points for your team by completing challenges. There are 3 rounds, 1 round a month, and each round has 5 challenges, and the challenges are based on different things. So, for instance, the encyclopedia challenge for this month is the zoo, and you have to knit something that reminds you of a trip to the zoo that you went on, and then you get points if you do that, and then you get bonus points if you can then link it back to something related to your team. I'm on Team TARDIS, for Doctor Who fans. That explains the crazy weird music in the beginning. Copyright people, don't kill me, I'm just a fan! My brother is supposed to be making me Creative Commons music because he's a music person. So I'm just waiting for him to finish his homework and make that music intro for me so I can use that instead of the official theme song. Anyway, so it's zoo themed for the encyclopedia entry, and then the discovery entry is the atmosphere, and you have to do something inspired by stuff that happens in the atmosphere. It's really cool. For the zoology one, a lot of people do really cool abstract things. There's some spinners who are spinning yarn, like brightly colored, like reds and blues and greens, and they have a picture of like a parrot next to it, and like they look like the same colors of the parrot. That's cool. I'm not that cool. I had a list of projects that I need to get done anyway this month, and I'm knitting a baby hat for a coworker, and it's a giraffe. So this is going to be my entry for the zoo challenge. It's horribly literal interpretation of the zoo challenge, but I do have a cool story about giraffes and my honeymoon that I went on recently. My husband and I spent 2 days at 2 different zoos, and there were baby giraffes. So I do have like an excuse, sort of, for the obviously literal interpretation of the zoo. And I'm basically done with this, except the spots on this giraffe are put on afterwards with duplicate stitch. That is not fun. And I'm really not sure. This is for a coworker to give to one of her friends for a baby shower, which I think is a little weird anyway. And I'm just like, the weaving in on the inside is like not exactly the project that you want to do for a complete stranger, because you don't know what their education level is on handmade things. But oh well, I'm doing it. It's almost done. I don't even know what else to say. I mean, I have so much to say about Nerd Wars. It's going to be epic. Oh yeah. If you complete, I think I told you this in my last episode, if you complete all 5 challenges in a month, it's called Dwarfing the Nebula, and you get a special badge that you can put on your profile page and gloat about how awesome you are. I want to do that. My biggest obstacle right now is one time, although I am working a night shift and I do get to knit considerably more at work now than before. But the other thing is, one of the challenges is a charity challenge where you have to donate something in that month. And I'm not sure how I'm going to, like, you don't have to knit something and donate it. You can donate money, and you can do it online. And a lot of people have posted stuff. I almost want to just be like, randomly pick a post and donate to whatever they donated to. But it's like, I feel really weird about donating money to organizations, because I guess I'm a cynic and I don't really trust them, and I'm just like, what are you going to do with my money? Really? But, oh, and you have to link it to something, so it's a fear-based one, so you have to donate money or a knitted project or something related to a fear and like helping other people overcome a fear. So it's like this whole like thing, and I don't know what I'm going to do for that. I don't know what I'm going to do for it yet. I have to think about it. But that's the only one that I'm struggling with. I'm all over the place today. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about how I have to go to work in like 2 hours, and I should probably sleep or something. I don't know. My dissertation project is Granny Square Blanket. It's the Something Pretty blanket by Millie Makes, and this is the only complete square I have done right now. And I'm doing it in a whole bunch of different colors. So this is the bright orange color, obviously. And then the other ones, I did all these at work last night because I was afraid I would ruin my lace if I tried to knit it in my sleep-deprived state. But these are all the different, I have 3 shades of yellow in addition to the orange. And this one at the top, I thought it was yellow when I bought it, but then I looked at the ball band last night and saw that it said ivory on it. But I mean, I think it fits. And I really like the way it looks next to the bright orange. So we'll just have to see, like, it's really close in color. You can't see it, but it's really close in color to the white, so we'll have to see how that works. But my goal is to do 50 squares by the end of Nerd Wars, and to seam them together. Oh, and seaming them together with the teal color. I don't know where my teal is right now, but it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. This is 6, but only one of them is completely a square. The others are still circles. 6 of 50. So yeah, that's a lot of stuff. I feel like I'm going to have a lot more than the usual amount of talking to do while Nerd Wars is going. Obviously, I didn't get to say very much about Nerd Wars, So I'm probably going to be recording every week from now, probably until the end of Nerd Wars, most likely. So look forward to that. And yeah. Oh, if you are interested in participating in Nerd Wars, signups for teams are over. You can't join a team, but there is a Ninja Warrior category where people can play just freestyle on your own, and that's open whenever. You can join the last month as a Ninja Warrior. So that'd be a cool way to like kind of poke your head in and see what's going on, and if you're interested in knitting competitions. It's really cool and fun. Anyways, I'm gonna stop here. So I'll see you next week. Bye.